To the economy and economic matters. Eskom, and it's constantly in the news of late with regard to either load shedding, senior staff strikes, the protests yesterday. But what concerns the majority of us is quite simple. Will we have power at home, at work, in our education facilities, health services, or not? Joining us here to answer some of those questions and concerns is advisor to Eskom, Mr. Mike Rossouw. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anna.
Perhaps in my intro, I should also say if we will have power, for how much? Let's discuss those above inflation tariff hikes. A 12.69% increase at the moment that's going to be taking place in a matter of days, if not already. And just around the corner, an application for even more increases, 25% odd. Speak to us about that.
The fact of the matter is that currently Eskom's tariff is not sufficient to recover its costs, which is what the regulator is entitled to award to Eskom. So in effect, Eskom is making a loss. And this is one of the reasons why you will have read in the press that there are serious cash flow issues within Eskom. It's because the tariff at the moment is simply too low to recover the costs that Eskom is bearing to produce electricity.
Is Eskom robbing Peter to pay Paul, putting the burden on consumers for their own financial mismanagements that we have nothing to do with?
No, I think what you need to remember is that the story around the current problems that Eskom have started a long time ago. Actually, it started as long ago as 1998, and the problem has just increased in intensity. So at the moment, the broad policy is that the users pay for the services that they receive, and hence the reason why most of the increases, unfortunately, are borne by the consumer. There are other options, of course, obviously, in terms of equity that could be injected by the state, loans, and other forms of financing. But at the moment, the policy predominantly falls on the consumer, you and I.
A lot of people have lost confidence in Eskom. It's been called Eskom. It's been called all sorts of things. Now, my question is there an end in sight? You spoke about how this problem has been a long time coming. It's just become even more intensified at the moment. How much longer?
I have to say, first of all, that I'm very confident that we are going to get out of the problem. I have to caution, though, that it's going to take time, and hopefully I can explain why it's going to take time. It's a big issue that needs resolving, and Eskom have the people to resolve it. That is the reason they asked me to come in as an independent advisor and give them advice in terms of how to accelerate the restoration of the fleet. So the good news is we are going to turn this around. In fact, we have to turn it around for the sake of South Africa, but it is going to take time. If we follow the plans that we have in place, it's going to take at least 3 years.
And is there capacity to do so? I mean, I alluded to this earlier in my intro, the reshuffles, management, etc. Is there capacity and will to turn things around?
The will is definitely there. There's no doubt about that. That I can assure you. There is insufficient capacity, and there has been for some time, which is one of the reasons why our maintenance program has fallen behind. But we are making plans to provide additional space and capacity to do maintenance and also reduce the risk of load shedding. But that's going to take at least 12 months to put into place, which we are working on as we speak.
So are you saying basically for the next 3 years or foreseeable future, South Africans are just going to have to make do with scheduled load shedding? We're going to have to make sure that we switch off our lights when we don't need to, try and use solar geysers, etc.?
I think for this year that reality remains, but we are working on plans to reduce that risk for the next 2 years whilst we restore the maintenance program and the performance of the fleet.
I want to clarify at least some concerns about BHP, Billiton and Eskom's deal, and a brief that we sell to neighbouring countries when we ourselves don't have enough supply to satisfy local demand.
Yeah. The issue of the supply to BHP is misunderstood, I'm afraid. First of all, you have to remember that the deal was struck on a win-win basis between Eskom, approved by government, and BHP. And the deal is not so much a deal on price, but rather a deal whereby Eskom hedges the price of aluminium to which is exposed and also the rand-dollar exchange. And the contract with BHP Billiton is struck on that basis. So over the long term, it's a revenue contract in the sense that in some years we will recover more money than we would, and in other years less. So you can't look at the price at any particular one point in time and make any decision about that. This is a revenue-based contract.
Your message to South Africans, as I said, many of whom have lost confidence, have lost all hope in Eskom, especially since it's been relegated to junk status there. Any message to South Africans at the moment?
Well, I resigned from my previous position as a director of Hatch Associates and all my other positions as well, including the Energy Intensive Users Group chairman, to join Eskom, knowing two things. One, that Eskom can turn this around, and secondly, that in fact I can make a contribution. And what I've seen in Eskom, there are more than enough capable and competent people to turn this organisation around, and they have the will to do so.
I know a lot of people sure hope you're right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mike Rossouw, the advisor to Eskom. We appreciate your time. All right, let's leave it there at least for now. We're going to take a look at your